Hello, Internet. What's going on? Oh, look at that. This camera looks like crap. I didn't check any of this stuff before I started. Like a big dummy. Now you get to see the camera menu. Let's just put it on automatic exposure. It'll be fine. It looks a lot better. How's it going? Did anyone enjoy my gigantic Hoff? I hope you did. Actually, wait, hold on. Let's see if I can do this without... Oh, here we go. Something like that. And then what else can I do since there's no Emoto? I'm scared crapless just doing this while the stream is live. I'm just gonna break something. Background color, opacity. Okay. That's cool. I personally think Emoto is almost as good as the Hoff. You know. Okay. Let me see what this camera's pointed at really quick. Oh, man, I'm tired. That one's okay. Oh, crap, look at that. I didn't even turn the games on. Hold on. Let there be electricity. All right. What's up, Internet? Wow. Look how loud those things are. How's it going today here in Internet land? What's the good word on the street? I hope y'all appreciate my new co-host here, the Hoff. Arguably, actually no, not arguably, definitely the star of Baywatch. I mean, it's the man. I really always appreciated how gigantic the Hoff was on the back glass. It's always quite humorous. I mean, let's just get out of the way now. Let's talk about this. Actually, no, we'll talk about it when everyone strolls in. Insanity Falls, that's a good question. I think I would make a better lifeguard, and that's not because I'm better. I think just like because I'm tall enough, I can reach the bottom of most pools. And also maybe my the length of my appendages make me a better lifeguard, perhaps. That maybe is one reason why, or the only thing that Emoto has that the suffering from, just because she is Emoto-sized. But I was a good swimmer in middle school and high school. I was on the swim team just because I had zero stamina, but like a 50-yard swim I mean, I could complete that. Like, I'd be halfway across the pool on my first stent when I jump in, you know. Mike McKenna, hello. Thanks for joining. Nolan, I mean, does anyone watch for any reasons other than the Hoff? I don't know. I guess in the ocean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a lot of stamina, so I don't feel like I'd make a great swimmer, a great lifeguard in the ocean. I can't speak for Moto, but we'll have to let her fend for herself when she returns someday. It depends on the length of the ocean. Some oceans are quite shallow for quite some time, so I'd be a decent lifeguard in shallow oceans. Dookie Power, hello. Welcome to the stream. Dookie Power is a real life friend, here to troll us. I don't know if I can touch the bottom of the ocean. Honestly, I really don't like going to the ocean. I really don't like anything about the beach. It's just hot, it's windy, it's sandy, it's uncomfortable. I'd much rather be in a swimming pool. There's literally zero reasons to go swimming in the ocean unless you want to see fish or you think it's like sand. I don't know. They're pretty. I will give if I had to compare American beaches, East Coast beaches are a lot nicer than West Coast beaches. I think West Coast beaches are pretty, but they're unusable. They're very rocky, and I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere. I can do episode 1 memes also, y'all. West Coast beaches are very pretty and scenic, but I guess East Coast beaches are nicer to sit on and swim and stuff because the water's warmer, the Atlantic's much warmer, the sand is soft and not covered in rocks, so there's some benefits there. But I just don't care about the beach anyway, so heck with it, right? How was everyone's weekends? What went on? I did a whole lot of nothing. I watched the French Grand Prix. It was wonderful. I mean, actually, it was kind of a boring race, but it's just sad to see Ferrari screwing up so much. I brushed my cats, and I made a really good soup. I made an incredible lentil soup at the behest of my friend Dookie Power in chat here. He sent me a great lentil soup recipe. It's wonderful stuff. No, really, I don't particularly like going to the beach. I don't see any purpose. It's just uncomfortable. I'd much rather, I like being inside too, so I'm not a good person to judge outdoor activities. I'm more of a mountains and foresty kind of person than a beachy kind of person, you know? But it's fine because this game still does speak to me. We've been memeing about this forever. And I figure since we actually don't have anything and no one's giving me the confirmation that I can do anything really fun for episode 100, or unless no one's telling me what we're doing, I wanted to make sure we were working on something we've been talking about for years. Let's work on my Baywatch. I'd really like to get this game going, get it finished and playable because it's a great game and it's gorgeous. It's got a shark flipper. I mean, that's super cool. What happened to the machine you worked on last week? It was a relatively new stern. Yes, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's literally right behind Baywatch. It's got a bad motor board, and we have one in stock that's like our sample we keep for all the parts, and I just didn't feel like pulling it out today. And I don't want to. I'll just wait till we can get one from Stern one day to fix the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we'll do that later. Baywatch is a great game. APB Enterprises knows what's up. It does have a massive D&D, and that's kind of been the bane of my problems for a while, and as to why we haven't worked on this game. So we're going to open it up and take a little bit of poking around, and we'll slowly get to work on this game. I do have one. What was that? Hold on. That was a piece of glass. Did this get broken? Oh, if this is broken, I'm going to be extremely sad. Oh no, maybe it was broken to begin with, though. All right, well, maybe we aren't doing anything with Baywatch because this DMD that I may have thought was good is potentially broken. Oof. Yeah, well. No, it's just the glass in the corner. Again, I have 2 of these, so I can hope and cross my fingers that this this little crack here in the corner is not a game breaker. So you got a little chunk missing there. Don't know how that happened, but it doesn't look like it's it looks like it's still intact. So we'll try. I'm going to get my my family back in California to send me the other one that I bought when I was in California. So hopefully we will have one good DMD for this game. So we'll actually try putting it in the game now in a moment. Looking at this piece of glass, there is a portion of like the black material in the DMD that's come off. That's annoying. I don't think I put it in there, and I put it in there gently. So if someone was mucking with my game, they'll have hell to pay. Dot matrix disappointment, yes. Yeah, I'd like to put a color DMD in there. Unfortunately, I just do not have the funds to afford something like that. So we're going to try my pile, or a couple of these gas plasma DMDs we have. Nolan, the large DMDs do not take a more ridiculous voltage. It just has more dots. The DMD, there was only 4 games that used the big DMD. A Baywatch, Frankenstein, Batman Forever, and one more, maybe Maverick, I think. But it is a unique glass that was not used in any other pinball game. These are unique also in another way. I'm tripping on this. This actually is kind of upsetting because I knew this was in good shape when I put it in. I think it was in good shape. Anyways, this thing does make its own, has its own bit of power supply on the back of the board. So there is, this game takes in like relatively mild voltages and then turns that into other things. The other problem is what you have is a lot of the times the problems with these displays are the power supplies fail, and they're irreparable because everything is on the other side of the glass. It is almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it is kind of it is very difficult because the glass isn't like a display glass, like a 7-digit, 11 or 16-digit display. They do connect with ribbon cables. It's not worth wasting your time trying to disconnect the glass connection to the board. So I might need to get magnification out just to take a double look-see at this really quick. Ugh. It looks like the glass broke in just a way where it had just really missed the plasma, encased plasma section of the display, so may have gotten extraordinarily lucky. So yeah, they're difficult to repair, they're difficult to find, and a lot of these games were just kind of thrown to the wayside when they would die, because Vishay doesn't like to work on them, they're hard to find, until the color DMDs came out. It was just impossible to service. So now we can kind of breathe a little bit of new life into these games, which is great. 1 second, I'm closing something on my computer that is annoying and sending pop-ups to me. Ah. Okay, taskbar, go away. All right, bitchin'. So yeah, that's Baywatch. They're weird. Anyways, let's see what we can get. If this one works, we will be able to start working on the game. We really don't need the display to disassemble, clean, and put the game back together. But we do need the display to troubleshoot and make sure everything is working, right? We do need the display to tell us what's going on with the game, get through the test menus, etc. I believe I'm going to yank these ramps off, and I might be able to hopefully be able to scan these decals for the ramps in. That way, hopefully they can be reproduced. And then we will be able to install them on new ramps. I believe my friend Jody at Ramp-O-Matic, who makes a bunch of wonderful reproduction ramps for pinball games. He's been on this show before. I believe he is going to send me a new set of ramps so we can try fitting some new ramps to this game. But yeah, it's been a while. This game belonged to Marco, the company, as they, 10 years ago, were trying to develop LED replacement displays for, oh hey, there he is. Hello, Ramp-O-Matic. Thank you, you're very kind. As the company tried to develop LED displays, they bought every game imaginable that had a different kind of display to try and reproduce them. Unfortunately, the DMDs are just a little difficult to do, so they kind of dropped that project. And last year, before Mark passed away, I asked him to purchase this game, and he sold it to me. So now it's mine, and I look forward to bringing it back to life. It's one of those, fun little special connections with the game is, you get it from an incredible person like Mark. So very lucky to have this game, and I'm excited to put it together. The game is apart. Someone took it apart years and years and years ago and did not put it back together. So it is missing some pieces that hopefully I will be able to either source and dig up or see if I have them or will be able to get them produced. It looks like I'm missing a couple of brackets for the flap on the ramp underneath the guardhouse. The coil's still there and the plunger and stuff are there, but like the bracketry and coil stop are missing, so I need to take a look-see for that. Hopefully we'll be able to find it. STP was playing his Baywatch yesterday, having a problem with the building door detecting the ball correctly. I think it's just two switches. I think there's an entrance flap switch or like a ramp entrance switch, and if lock is qualified, it will pull the plunger to open the trap door, and then the ball will go in and lock, and then it knows it's completed when it hits a lock switch, and then it will close that door. But we'll take a look. The game's pretty complete otherwise. Again, it's just been taken apart and not put back together, so we are missing a few things here and there, but we should be able to find them, I hope. But otherwise complete. We'll put this thing back together and do some exploring. Definitely swap out to some nice warm white LEDs for our feature lamps to reduce our current draw, a few other things. Let me pop the other camera on. We can take a look. Good afternoon, Pin Guy. Thank you for joining us here today. Is this the? Yeah, that's it. And then we'll put that camera on here so you can see my butt. So in a bigger view, here we can see the damage to this DMD. It could have been damaged while I was moving. I have no idea. But we have a chunk of the DMD missing here. It doesn't look like it's gone super deep. Maybe this one is not the most reliable dot matrix display for the long run, but let's see if we can get it on and working. We'll fire it up. Does this have a cam in the back? It is. It is properly locked. Let's take a look at some of the electronics in the back really quick before maybe we take a look at the game and some of the other cosmetics. This is what I was talking about with the guard tower being gone. It's all underneath. Thankfully, the Sega manuals of this time are pretty detailed. These are unique. This hot salmon colored lane guides and such, and pop bumper caps. I don't think any other games use those, but they're not easily available as reproductions, so always be careful with your original plastic stuff. Mike McKenna giving some weird display on and offs. 5-volt header. Yeah, we'll take a look, because the games that used all the voltages necessary to run the DMD, if I'm not mistaken, are on the actual display itself. Where on prior games and the games that came after this, all of the hardware was on the power supply, like a traditional game, right? With your high voltages on the power supply. I forgot, I hate these games because they swing out like Gottlieb's side. I'm so used to working on this side of games because almost every single pinball game unlatches here and opens out this way, but they don't for some reason. To remove the insert, disconnect cables and push up off of hinges. Thank you, Sega. That was one awesome thing, actually, that Sega and Data East did a lot, was trying to make games a bit more serviceable, which is really cool. Williams didn't care as much. That is one thing that Sega and Data East had going for them, was making more serviceable pinball games. And things that generally didn't require as much maintenance as fast. That is kind of what they prided themselves on. So let's take a look at the back box. Standard Data East Sega era game. This was one of the last games that used Data East's like System 11 style knockoff computer. Very soon after this, they went to the White Star system. Here's our big display board. Let's get that moved down. So here we have our very slidey display panel. We have our dot matrix computer. This handles all of the processing for the dot matrix files. All of the pages are stored in these two ROMs. This interfaces with the computer via this ribbon cable. This sends data to the display via this ribbon cable. Pretty simple. We have our power supply, which is quite small. This is a standard Data East backbox plane. Generally, the power supplies are this tall, but since these do not have the high voltage components on them, this is a smaller power supply. We've got the computer here, the sound computer here. And that is something to keep in mind as well. You have 3 computers that run independently of each other, but are controlled by one, right? So this is a computer. It has a processor, a program to run, etc. This can run without this. This can also run without the computer. It is up to the computer, once it boots, to wrangle in both of these computers to give them instructions. You can have a Data East game that will make sound. I think a lot of you are familiar when you turn a Data East game on, they will say or do something. And then that sound bite is cut short. That's when the computer wrangles it in and says, hey, I give the instructions around here. Let's listen to me. Same thing with this computer. It will boot up and it will display a page file, Baywatch version XXX, whatever, you know, and then it's up to the computer to start running the program to feed this instructions to pull up the correct pages out of these ROMs. All of that data which is stored in the game ROM right here. We have our PPB board down here. This was Data East's version of like a Williams interconnect board, which was really common on the System 11 games. It allowed the backbox harness in its entirety to connect to one circuit board, and then all cabinet and Playfield related circuitry to plug into the bottom of that board. which made it much easier to remove Playfield's harnesses and thus to like remove the head to separate the components. Similarly to Williams, Data East used there was power generation here. I believe the 50 volts is generated on this board with that bridge rectifier in the top. That relay on the bottom left is to control the general illumination flashing on and off. The 5 tip 36 drivers up there are to handle like either high voltage solenoids or heavy duty solenoids. So you still have a smaller driver running the bigger drivers, but these handle the brunt of them for big up kickers or things like that. You've got your similar again to Williams at the era, a lot of bridge rectifiers screwed down here for your feature lamps, etc. Big filter capacitors for your 18 volts, which runs the lamp matrix. Yeah, I say Data East and Sega. You might say, well, Kyle, this is a Sega game. Well, it's the same thing. Data East rolled itself into Sega. The name of Sega of Japan purchased Data East to compete in the pinball market, which was, again, it was kind of on its way out. We had Williams, which was just, doing a good thing. I think by this time, Gottlieb was out of business, or it was very close to closing its doors. Capcom had opened and closed very quickly, and Sega wanted to purchase the rights from Data East for their namesake. So you'll notice a lot of these things, right? And it's like they had the boards, and they say Data East here, but then when you look at your warranty tags, they say Sega Pinball Inc. And the funny thing is actually, if you look at that, Stern has not changed their serial number stickers in quite some time. They look exactly the same. So yeah, the lineage was basically, you had your Data East, which turned into Sega Pinball, and then when Sega realized that pinball makes no money, and they were ready to ditch pinball, Gary Stern and others came together to say, well, let's keep it going. They purchased Sega and created Stern Pinball Incorporated, which still exists today. So from the ashes of Data East, or from Sega, came Stern. Now Data East, the history, if you bring it even back, I think, as I know the story, Data East, which was a company in Japan, right, approached Gary Stern to open up a pinball division since, he was involved in his father's version of pinball, and Gary was up to the cause, and Gary ran Data East, just like he ran Stern up until just last year as the actual president of the company. So Gary wanted it back and created his own pinball company again, and that's why you see some South Parks, which I believe was right when they were changing over, you'll see some South Parks that say Sega, some that say Stern. It's kind of funny, right in the middle. Anywho, I don't remember if this game was, I think this game was safe to turn on. I tested voltages, I think years ago, like before I even bought this thing from Mark. I had the solenoids unplugged while I was kind of turning things on to make sure, to see if it ran and it was okay. Looks like we have some GI. This is the GI connector. Someone redid it using a stupid IDC connector that looks like it's too small for the wire gauge. So we'll definitely be changing that back out to a superior crimp and stuff Molex and repair this wire here. But let's turn it on and see what we get. I don't have my manual with me. I have a Baywatch manual at home I will need to get and bring with. And we'll start diving into this thing. I think today, let's see if we can get the, let's see if that dot matrix over there will work. And if that dot matrix over there works, we know we have a decent starting point. So I'm going to set this guy down here really quick and take a look at the chit-chat going on as well while I find a cord to plug this in. One controller to rule them all. Yes. From the fires of Mordor came stern. Yeah, in a good way, not a scary Mordor style way. Can a new building be acquired for this machine? I think so. I think there's someone who was 3D printing them. Okay, so someone has done something a little weird with the power for the supply lines for the power for the display. It looks like someone's just untucked them. But that being said, or I'm sorry, the display computer. The display computer runs on 5 volts in ground, and then going into the actual dot matrix display here, we have what is probably 5 volts in ground being red and black, plus maybe a 12 volt here, or a couple higher voltages, probably AC voltages that are rectified and turned into a usable dot matrix style voltages. I don't know. I'd need to double check the schematic. I don't remember exactly how it works. But let's do this. Let's turn the game on and make sure it's safe. The only reason I'm not unplugging everything and checking power supply output voltages right away is because I remember doing that before and it was safe. It was putting out good 5, good 12, everything the game needs to boot. Let me know if you guys want to go over that, and I can show you how you would check a Data East Sega game, how to check those voltages and make it safe. But I'm pretty confident in flipping this switch here. When we do flip this switch, the things we're going to listen for, of course, is we're going to watch the electronics in the back, make sure that if anything starts smoking, like a capacitor or something like that, that we turn it off immediately. And we're also going to listen for coils that pull in automatically. Since there is one coil that is just dangling here, I'm going to make sure it's not shorting against anything as well. I've already got one yes please from Scott Solomon, so we will do that. First, let's turn it on, and we'll see. Smoke would be a bad sign. Are all the fuses good? I don't know. But since we're not playing it, I'm confident in just turning it on.
Baywatch will be right.
Okay, so we have a booting soundboard, and the computer is definitely running the program. Since we have feature lights, since we do not have a display, obviously we don't know if that computer is running. It may well be, but we do not. That's the only way we can tell that the game is running the program. If you turned one of your Data East games on, a recent acquisition, and all you got was sound, but you didn't get feature lights, that means the main computer, the actual MPU, is not running. So you definitely want to make sure you keep that in mind. You need to see signs of life from everything. Like I was trying to explain earlier, this can work on its own. When it gets its 5, 12, whatever volts it needs, the processor will start running the program, which is to play that soundbite, right? Baywatch will be right back. Anywho, so you can kind of do, it's better to do with a manual. I'm going to just guess, but I think I have a lot of educated guess capabilities here on what to unplug. And to do this, we'll need our voltmeter. I'm going to use this handy dandy sweet headlight that my friend Joe bought me, since I don't have any other light, and we can illuminate the back box. The DMD did not show anything because I know that does not work. So let's see if I can find a good place to perch all this stuff. When we are testing things to make sure they're safe to power on, we want to protect the electronics, right? What that means is we're going to try to isolate all the electronics from the power supply. Now, I know for a fact all Data East games are the same. Oh, let me turn on this light. It actually might help a lot. Does that make the vision better? Hopefully, I'm not turning around. On Data East power supplies, it's good to kind of familiarize yourself with colors of wires and stuff like that. Every company did use different things, but on Data East games, you have a gray wire is for 5 volts, a gray and white wire is 12 volts, and black are ground. I don't know if there's any gray and whites here, so these only take 5. Anyways, so that's our power in connector here, right? So you have gray and black. You can find all this information in your manual. And we can see if we look at the power supply here, that we have those wires also coming out of this connector. This is going to be our power output, right? This power supply works from right to left, basically. We have AC voltages that come in on this side, and DC voltages are put out on this side. That's maybe not 100% true, but that's the gist of it. I know that these are this is transformer voltage in. These are your GI strands. This is your 6 point whatever volts AC coming in from the transformer. Earth grounds, things like that. I'm not 100% sure what these voltages are here. I believe this maybe is, I don't remember. I think this is lamp voltages here for feature lamps, etc. So to make this game safe, in most cases, we would just need to unplug our output. And that is this connector here. So let's unplug our rectified regulated output here. And I guess like to actually be safe, I think this is, again, this is like a secondary 5 volt output, so we could unplug that one, but since I know it's fine, I'm just going to leave that in there. So that's what we would want to remove. Thankfully, this power supply is quite easy to read. We have all of our voltages, it's very easy to reach test points at the top of the power supply. Are those visible? Might not be focusing too well, but we've got 12 volts unregulated, negative 12 volts unregulated, ground, and plus 5. Those are the voltages that this power supply puts out. Depending on your meter, sometimes it is easier to just shove your ground or negative lead like into the ground strap. Most of the time when we're measuring voltages on a pinball power supply, we are just making sure that there is voltage there, right? Especially since we're dealing with unregulated voltages, and in some instances, we just need to make sure that we are getting around 12 volts. If you're getting 14, that's normal. If you're getting 10, that's not normal. It doesn't matter if it's 10.5 or 11. If it's low, look into it. If not, we're just kind of looking for voltage. So the best way to measure would be to get that black, hold it on ground, and then hit another test point. But that's difficult to achieve sometimes with only 2 hands. So I'm going to put my voltmeter here on volts DC. I'm going to turn the game on, and you'll notice that the soundboard is probably not going to boot up. All the game is getting now is AC voltages to light the feature lamps, etc. I'm going to take my voltmeter here, and I'm going to hit the minus 12 unregulated first. So my meter is showing negative 13.87. That's good. Positive 12. I'm getting 11.79. That's also good. And I'm going to check positive 5. I'm getting 4.97. That's okay. That's good. I'd like to see a little more than 5 on the power supply, especially when there's nothing else on the 5-volt line, but it's fine. So good, right? We can also check, if you're savvy, get in here and double check, okay, the gray wires are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positions down. You can kind of come over here and measure them not at the test points too. It's like, okay, there's 4.97, 4.97, 4.97, 11.82. There's that 12-volt line we're talking about. So we've got good voltage here. What that tells me is that this thing is okay to plug in, and it will not fry or roach or destroy anything on the computer. So let's turn it off. Let's plug this back in. I can't wait to dress this harness. You might have heard the speakers pop. Some of the power is being held in these capacitors, and when I plugged it in, there was enough of a rush into the amplifiers to make it go thunk. Let me check the chat here before I keep talking to myself. Oh, good. No one's talking. Everyone's just listening to me ramble. Hi, Daniel. Welcome. Yeah, it definitely is. Someone stuffed these GI wires into this orange IDC connector that looks a little too small for the gauge of wire that's in there. Anyways, so since I'm satisfied with it putting out 5.7 here, I'm going to leave the computer plugged in. Sometimes if you're trying to be really thorough, you can unplug the computer, measure for 5, turn it off, plug it back in, see if it runs. But the one thing I'll generally do to make sure that we are absolutely safe is let's take away the ability for the computer to hurt itself or hurt anything in this machine. I've unplugged the solenoids. Right here, bottom left of these Data East computers, that is your solenoid output. These are all of your solenoid drives here. The other things that could happen for the game to hurt itself would maybe a big voltage spike and you'd burn a lamp out and melt an insert. I don't know. If you want to get really anal, let's unplug the rows and columns of the lamp matrix. And then one thing with System 11 Data East computers, it is important to also unplug these special solenoids, which are these 6 drivers up here. We're going to unplug that. Now this computer can literally do nothing except for think and run the program. It cannot control any peripherals or outputs. So now what we can do is we can turn it on. We can watch our diagnostic lights, which are not necessarily the most descriptive on these Data East games, but 2 of them will light up and then they'll shift. So the 5-volt light will stay on. I think the PIA light will turn on, and then the blanking light turns on or something, or vice versa. Let's watch the startup sequence. Generally at this point, when we have the game on, we'll also check for +5, make sure we don't have a massive voltage drop. Yeah, and then we can start plugging peripherals back in and see what it does, which will get us to the stage where we were at a second ago. So, game on, the computer, the soundboard booted up. We have test points at the top of the computer. You're going to have to believe me. Fortunately, I only have 2 hands. So I'm going to push this on the 5-volt test loop. And we have 4.9 volts. So we have a 0.07 voltage drop between this connector here, all that wire up to here. 4.9 volts is probably OK for this to sit at, and it will not cause a problem. If it was much lower, I would be anxious, and I'd want to try to repin some of these connectors, make sure we don't have tarnished connectors, make sure that the IDC connectors are not goofy, and wires are pulling out and causing voltage drops. I can see, actually, those might be factory. Yeah, they look like they are factory. These locking ramp IDC connectors, I don't think anyone's changed those. Those are all factory. The only connector I can really see that has been changed is probably that one for the GI right there, where the power supply burnt itself up a little bit. I'm going to plug the rest of the game back in, and now we're basically at the point where we were before I said we were going to show you how to make sure a game was safe. That's the real anal way to do it. This game is clean enough and doesn't have a bunch of hacks where I would have skipped that last step, just turned it on and see if the program would have started running. So, yeah. So yeah, that's one way to be really careful with a new game, and I'd recommend doing that for most. I would also, especially before we start playing it, we'll go through and make sure all the fuses are correct before we actually use the game. Is Kyle's third eye glowing? It was. Hydrate with beer. Well, this may or may not be beer, but beverage. What are the green wires on the bottom of the MPU board still plugged in? Those are for the switch matrix. I believe you've got your switch strobes here and your switch columns and your switch rows. This is what the computer is sending out, those pulsing 5-volt signals over and over and over and over again, a bunch of times a second to look for a switch closure, and these are the returns. So these are safe to leave in. But again, check your manual. I just know this because I have experience. So yeah, let's try plugging in that DMD. I'm really curious. I'm not confident now that I found that little chip in it, which bums me out. But maybe I can convince Emoto to spend marketing money budget, or all the money from all of our wonderful subscribers like you guys, on maybe purchasing a color DMD for the 100th episode. And then I'll use my other one as a spare, or provide it to someone who is in need, who does not have a DMD for their Baywatch. I'm going to put the display panel back up just to get it out of the way. I'm going to go try to find a soft towel of sorts. Actually, I'm going to do this with the glass on just because it makes it 1,000 times easier. So give me 1 second while we do that. Hey, no problem. I'm glad. I hope that taught you something, and hopefully that's helpful in the future when you get a new pinball game. The flow chart, again, is unplug driven devices, so your computer. Measure voltages coming out of the power supply. And make sure that they're safe. Nothing's high, nothing's wonky. Then plug it back in. Playfield sits in here really strange. Have to make sure that there's no damage, or the cabinet could be twisted. We'll see. This piece of glass is god-awful. I think actually the cabinet might not be square. I need to look at the legs and levelers. I need to get a new lockdown bar for this. I think I may have one for a Sega Data East game of this era. This one doesn't really go in very nice, but it's going to keep the glass from falling out of the game, and that's all I care about right now. Yes, the MPU boots. All the computers boot up just fine. Except for the display computer. I guess we technically don't know if that one boots up since we don't have a working display. Lay down a couple of these microfiber towels. We'll get our potentially compromised oh, hey, look at that. Oh, okay. I think that there's multiple versions of this display, and that's why this thing has a... Oh, check that out. I'm wrong. This display has a like ATX style Molex plug. And this display has a standard like 156 header. Well, shucks. Let me show you what's going on. I'm trying to make sure that there's no more goofy going on here. What the hell's this? Oh, that's for the speakers. So this is the connector for the actual display. This was the one that drives power. This is our power connector on this display. Just a standard, 90-degree 156 header. I need to open. God, I really don't have any good way of splicing this right now. I'm trying to think. I probably need to open the manual, and then I need to, that sucks. Sorry. I'm just going to let my frustrations out now. It's like, man, I didn't want to do any more work for this crap. I want to try to tap into this and then just supply power to this thing using this connector still. I don't know if I'm really set up to do that now, so I feel like this is annoying because this is going to push the, whatever, it's okay. Let's take a look. Actually, is this even the same? It has to be. There's only like 2 or 3 companies that made DMDs, right? This one that I'm holding is a Vichy. The one in the game is very different in the power supply side. And now I think I need to actually step back and take a look at the manual before I do anything silly. I'm assuming and hoping they both run on the same voltages, but can you see in there? Look at how beefy. Look, you've got like that big thing I think is a transformer. It takes AC voltage if I remember right. It does something really crazy in here. We've got a lot less electronics on this thing. That doesn't mean it's wrong, just different, but oh man, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. This is actually from something else. Oh no, look at that. I was so confident that this was, it looks different now. Okay, I think this is from a shuffle bowler of some sorts from some era. This is not a Baywatch Giganto DMD. This is a lot smaller. So, good. This is broken. It doesn't matter. I'm not upset anymore. I just saw Giant DMD and I was like, oh yeah, that's one of the ones from a Baywatch. I put a color DMD in a long time ago. It's not. I don't know what this is, so now I need to figure it out. But I'm going to throw it over here. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so check it out. Since the only place I have a actual good DMD now is in California, I'm going to text my little brother. I'm going to say, remember, you need to package that big board we got from that dude last time I was home. I'll give you my FedEx account number if you guys can send it Saturday. All right, cool. Maybe I'll have a Baywatch DMD, but you know what? That's fine. We're going to continue to try, we're going to make things nice. That we'll probably look at the game today. Let's take a look. Let's get an idea of what we need. I'm going to see maybe if I need to go in and purchase or find some other parts. But for now, let's go underneath the game. Let's take a look at what's going on down there. What looks like it might be wrong. Let's try to address some problems so we can create a list. This DMD will come at some point. If not, I'm just going to beg Emoto for the 100th anniversary to buy us a color DMD, and we'll see what happens. But we're not going to let that discourage us. Everything's good. At least we have, again, like Colin said earlier, we've got a running computer, running soundboard. That's probably running. We're happy. Let's go up the top here. Daniel, this is my game. I purchased this from Mark, who was the owner and founder of Marco Specialties. So it is pretty special to me. He always would make fun of it because he always thought it was stupid and silly, but I like it. And now that he's not here, I am really happy that it's mine because it's a fun memory for me to remember my friend by, you know? Mr. Kunzelman, any tricks for dealing with sticky connectors like those? With all connectors, just the one rule of thumb is to never pull them by their wires. Try to hold them by the disconnectable side of the housing. If things are especially stuck, spraying in a little bit of like a deoxit or something that dissipates in air. Sometimes I'll get like a heavy, maybe get like some alcohol on a rag and kind of drop it into the connector, like a isopropyl alcohol or something like that, because it evaporates very quickly. It'll break up some of the dirt while you wiggle it apart, pull it out. Yeah, square peg round hole is always my problem. Oh, Emoto's here. Yes, we did go Baywatch. Oh, Emoto was on Facebook and now she's on Twitch. Daniel says you can make a harness. Yes, but unfortunately this one's wrong. Midge is happy I'm working on Baywatch. Oh, good. I'm happy too. I'm excited to make it work. Hi, JG. How goes it today? Today's an okay day. today was a pretty crappy day up until about 2:55, and then I pushed start stream, and I'm a lot happier now that I'm here with you guys. So thanks for joining in with me and Emoto almost every week. Daniel says, nice, you have good memories on this game. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. It's those are the things that make them really special to me. So let's take a look inside the box. Let's look at the game. Maybe we'll remove the power supply. I did notice that we had half of our GI out, but maybe we can all sit here and make a little list together, and we can start knocking those problems out. I'm excited to have an actual project again, if you know what I mean. All right, let's get this display panel back in. Nice. Close our insert door here. I'm going to put these rags away, so give me 1 second. I'm going to sit here and hound my brother and see if he responded to me. He did not. He doesn't care. Oh, but look, Marco Pinball is streaming on Twitch. Okay. Move this camera here real quick. Almost all of my games have a memory attached to them, especially when they used to be in my house, and I used to have friends and I was social, and they would come over and we would play some games back in the day. But also just, you know, some of the places I got the games from or the people I got their games from. I'm also a very sentimental person, so it's those sorts of things are important to me. I'm gonna lift the playfield up. This game does have a very unique ball trough situation. It's not a unique ball trough. It's just one of those goofy Sega things where there was a coil to not only release. It's stupid because it was a 3-coil trough. You had a coil to release the ball in the trough, a coil to kick the ball out of the trough, and then you had a coil to launch the ball out of the ramp. So very strange design on Data East's part, but it does allow you to lift the game up without taking the balls out, which is nice. So here's the guard tower. This piece sits above the left ramp. Here is the metal left ramp and the armature here for the lifting of the ramp for the lock area. Missing a couple pieces. They actually all look like they're in here. Here we have the spinner. Another plastic bracket of sorts. Our friend the Super Dolphin. The original pricing cards. I'm going to get rid of the phony ones in there for sure once it's done. German gaming supplies. Okay. Yeah, I believe they were testing the PIN 2 DMDs in here at some point, and I believe that's the card for it. Here is the plunger for that teeny coil that goes on this ramp. I'm going to keep this in here to not lose it. And I believe this is going to be our bracket which houses that coil on this ramp. It looks like it doesn't use a coil stop, or possibly. So we'll have to look at the manual. It's been a very long time since I've torn a Baywatch apart. Let's look at one fun oddity down here. Data East had their TIFASI board, TYFFASI. It is a fun acronym and a funny story behind it that I can explain later, perhaps. It involves swearing. But anyways, Data East, these are their solid-state flipper boards. Each board controls 2 flippers. Data East made a triple flipper version. And if you notice, there's not a lot of 4-flipper Data East games. So for this game that had 4 flippers, they just installed 2 flipper boards. absolute excess at this time. There was a big bill of material attached to this game. Pretty awesome. We've got this gigantic subway down here for the ball return popper. God, this game is crazy. I do not understand how they got away with making something like this at this time. Otherwise, it's pretty standard Data East. At this era, it was very common to have lamp circuit boards. We don't have a ton of solo lamps for feature lamps around here. Again, Data East was definitely trying to do the ease of serviceability thing. We have like no coil stop here. We're missing an audible cue here. If you look at some of this stuff, Stern still uses this stuff today. The kicker slingshot bracket, the same that would be used on that game, just right there. What else do we have? A really cool curved bank of targets. What's cooler than that? Data East super gnarly up kicker brackets. They're gigantic, have a huge footprint. We have 3 bank drop targets here. Who doesn't love drop targets? People without pulses, that's about it. And lots of up kickers. So, interesting game. There's not a lot in here, though. It's not very dirty either. I didn't realize this game was so clean. We'll make sure it stays clean and nice for years to come. One of these service rails is loose. It's really common to find these things missing. I don't know if this was the era where they used a T-nut on the other side. It is. I can feel a T-nut on the other side. But it's really common on these 90s and early 90s Data East games to have their service rails missing. The ones with the rails are generally sturdier, but the ones that have just a 90-degree bend out and up, and then it comes to a rolly, curly cue at the end, those are always ripped out of the playfield. It was a bad design. These are a lot better, but these are pretty loose. So let me make sure I tighten them up. Always be tightening. You guys know this. I'm going to get that tattooed on me somewhere or something. Oh, this is my crappy nut driver. Here's a pro tip. See how blown out this is? It's not very square anymore. You can get a lot more life out of this if you get a wheel grinder of sorts and you set these things on there nice and flush, and then just remove 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and it will get rid of all that rounded out bit, and you'll get a nice square end again, and you can extend the lives of your nut drivers. Let's take a look-see here at the chat again. Gray Bear rules. I may have to replace some pin connectors. Any suggestions for where I can locate tools to remove and install pin terminals from and into connectors? Hi. Yeah, it depends on what kind of connector. So if you are replacing connectors that are an IDC connector, I would recommend changing them to Crimp and Stuff Molex connectors. Sometimes it's easier than not. When you have pass-through wires like this that go on both sides, it can be more difficult. To replace one of these, you would cut or pull, and then you would have to crimp new connectors on. You would use one of 2 tools. You need wire strippers, a cutter, and then a pin crimper. There's multiple different kinds of crimpers. You've got Old Reliable here, a wire stripper, always important. And then there's Ratcheting Crimpers. These were given to me by a friend of the show, Colin Baxter, and they are nice. They're very handy. They make it much easier to do this with one hand. They provide a third hand to you. Sometimes I still prefer to use the, oh, where's the camera? Old Reliables, but these are also quite handy. If you're talking about round connectors, such as a 093 or an 062 or an 084 connector, you need to get these special pin punches. This is an 093 pin removal tool. They make them in all the 3 sizes. Use the right tool for the right job. These are not super cheap, but I find that the more expensive versions work a lot better when they have the spring-loaded actions to them. So if you like buying tools, it's a really important one to get. We'll be doing some of that on this game for sure, but I know I've done crimping tutorials before, and there's a bunch of them out there that are probably better than ones that I can do anyways. Dent0123. What I've observed is that people make some repair on a pinball machine and become emotionally attached to it after that. It's strange to me, but it happens. It happens to me too. That's why I don't sell anything. I like I like my toys. I like my games. And when you put a lot of your time and effort into something, I think it goes back to my. I think I get along better with machines than I get along with other humans. So I definitely do enjoy and get attached to my games, and they're special. I also sold a lot of my games back when people were paying me $3,000 for games that I bought for $600, and I thought everyone was an idiot and that I was going to laugh my way to the bank, and now I can't afford those games anymore. So who's the idiot now? And I don't make enough money to spend it on really expensive pinball games currently, so I keep everything. There is a knocker in the cabinet, yes. Patrick Marino. Not the same without a moto. I need help, I know. Well, we have the Hoff, so it's fine. And Daniel, yeah, there's great side art. Look at, there's ladies in the burning sun. And that dude on his sweet guard bench there. They didn't really put a lot of work into the side art on these games, did they? Not like Stern does now, or Bally did back in the day, huh? It's okay, you don't play the cabinet, right? Anywho, let's keep going through before we put the playfield back down. And we can keep, at least I can make like a bit of a mental note. We're definitely going to need some flipper parts. These links don't seem that bad, but if this plunger, if this coil stop is actually gone, we will need to replace the plunger and link together with the new stop. You don't want to use a new stop with an old plunger. They will wear poorly, prematurely, and cause issues. So if you're going to replace the plunger, you will definitely want to replace the stop. And if you're going to replace the stop, generally you want to replace the plunger. Now, we talked about that with some of the newer Stern games. If you have one that unfortunately has a prematurely failing coil stop, it's okay just to replace the stop after the couple hundred games you may have put on it before it fails. Let's test this flipper here. Definitely hitting the stop there, but we're going to want to disassemble them to check their overall health. We'll definitely check all of them, but these ones feel quite good. The condition of the game underside looks actually very nice. People have looked like they've maybe taken some things apart, but then actually zip tied them back together. These black zip ties are not factory, so that's great. You don't have just a mess of spaghetti wiring around. That's fantastic. I suppose actually it's safe to turn the game on. Let's watch the lamps. I noticed that the lamps are actually quite dim, but I do see a lot of very burnt bulbs. So maybe replacing some of the lamps went away. Is that? Oh, it's bringing up like a technician's alert or something on the display right now. Oh, no, what? I hit these buttons down here like a dummy. It thinks the game is open right now. So let me close this, and now the game knows that it is not open anymore, I think. Yeah, there we go. We have the light show running. We've got some dirty inserts, so definitely want to bring my compressor. Actually, my compressor's broken, so I won't be bringing that. I'd like to clean some of those inserts and get the dust out. We've got some very blackened bulbs. These are quite bad. The game might actually be a lot brighter once we replace a lot of these blackened bulbs. It might not be a bridge rectifier or capacitor problem. Probably going to need to replace the drop targets. These look quite old. And as we all know, old drop targets are very brittle. and they like to snap, so that's something to look into for sure. But shucks, otherwise, I mean, it's nice. It's in good shape. Again, I'm gonna wanna get in here with a vacuum, with a brush, and make sure everything's clean. We're going to want to make sure that that's all good. I mean, shucks, honestly, we might not have much to do under the playfield until we turn the game on. It's nice to see that this stuff is not burnt up. But also, we're kind of restricted on what we can test until we get the screen. Without the screen, we can't really see what the game's doing. So, okay, not much to do under. It looks like maybe before the screen we can just clean. Maybe replace some drop targets, take some data east flippers apart, etc. This game is so crazy. Underneath the apron's really interesting with the kicker that kicks upward, the ball save kicker on the left, the outlane kicker. You put pin sound boards in any of my games? No, I generally won't. I like my games to be stock, and I don't see a lot of benefit to the pin sound boards a lot of the times. I do not like how they sometimes will change the way that games will call up their sounds. I don't like how they'll play multiple sounds over each other. It takes me out of the action when Addams Family can play so many sounds over each other, where in the factory game it can only play 2 or 3 sounds at the same time. And it kind of ruins that choreography for me. But I do really like what people can do custom-wise with pin sound boards. But I can use air from a can. That is a good point, Daniel, to blow out a lot of the dust on inserts. Sometimes I feel like you need a lot of pressure, though, to get some of it. The color DMD on Baywatch on STP's Baywatch looks good. One of the only games I would ever actively put a color DMD in, even if I had a good display, is Baywatch. The art is fantastic, and the colorization and the high resolution of the image, it just looks great. Pez Johnson, informal poll, which is better, Kyle's rear or the rears on the cabinet? Mine. Mine. I mean, y'all have been staring at it too. I slyly moved the camera, but when I'm standing there like that, you get to see it all on full display. So I think everyone would agree, let's be honest. I wish I could put a poll up. We don't have that plug-in. Yeah, Dent0123. Color DMD comes from Color DMD themselves. The fellow that owns that has kind of innovated that, Randy. He sells them. They've been difficult to get for a while due to part shortages, but they're available again. This might be the longest this game's been on for a while, so that's another good thing. Let's continue smelling, right? Let's make sure we don't get any magic smoke. I kind of want to pull up the manual and see what, how this little pulley coil attaches. I'm pretty sure what we have is, so here's the coil I'm talking about. If I remember right, it actually doesn't have a sleeve. I'm sorry, not a sleeve, but it actually doesn't have a stop. This mounts to the side of the ramp. Here. The coil sits off. And what this does is, when it pulls in, when it magnetizes, because the coil would actually go here, when it magnetizes, it wants to pull this way, and that will open this ramp, if I remember correctly. It uses the actual weight of the flap to flop forward, and when it's energized, remember the coil is a magnet, and it's going to pull this steel core this way. I believe that's how that works. I think I need to double check. So that actually might not have a coil stop, which is good because I don't have a coil stop for it. I do smell a little something something. It's also, we've got an old, dusty game that hasn't been on this long in years, so we could just have some dust heating up and falling off of its components, which is not impossible. There might even be a mouse poop in the ball lock trough. Sorry, I'm using all my senses here to make sure that this pinball game's happy. We do have half of our GI out. It looks like the white-brown strand is dead. I'm going to wiggle. I mean, it could have a blown fuse as well, but okay, definitely take a look at that. You know what? It also might be very dusty light bulbs. Sometimes a very dusty, dirty light bulb accumulates that schmuck, and then it turns on, and the light bulb's hot, and it burns off that icky, nasty dust. Actually, let's keep looking at this way, and I can kind of show you where some of this stuff goes. Baywatch is a 6-player game, which is kind of fun. My eyes are burning. No, I've got to, come on. I'm a perfect human specimen. Patrick Marino, personally, I don't like putting LEDs under the feature lamps. I prefer the way that the incandescent bulbs heat up and heat down for the light shows and the sweeps. I do generally always use all nice frosted capped warm white LEDs for the general illumination in the game because I do like yeah, like you said, the cut down on current and heat, and they make the games a lot brighter. So I definitely will be doing that. On certain games like electromechanicals or some old Bally's, I'll only use like 50% LEDs to kind of mix that glow, but also still cut down on the current draw. It is all up to personal opinion. There's nothing wrong with installing LEDs in your feature lamps, though. Personally, I just like the way that the light shows sweep with the incandescent bulbs. Smells something? It just smells like something is burning. It's a very faint smell, but it just smells like dust is burning to me. So he who smelt it dealt it. I'm guilty. Here is said little coil that we were talking about for that ramp. Here's that entrance switch. Here is the ramp. So this ramp, these are all lamp socket wires for the, whatchamacallit, what's it called? The guard post. So this goes in here, and this will match up with this habit trail in the way back. So this guy goes in right here. Again, it'll sit a lot better once it's actually connected the correct way. This switch attaches here, and this is the, hey, the ball's coming up the switch, ramp switch. And then you'll see there's another one here. So generally you have a enter and a completed switch. So the enter switch will say, hey, it's coming. In some cases where there might be a multi-ball feature, that is when this would open and the ball would tumble on down into the trough for multi-ball locks. And then once the ball has crested and there's absolutely no way it can come back down that ramp, that's when you'll have the completed switch, which is this one here. We have our guard post, fun little sculpted toy. And this guy sits up here somewhere. I believe it mounts on a plate somehow, but this sits here somewhere. This one is the one I'm not 100% sure about. But it won't be hard to figure out where this goes using pictures. It looks like this actually goes here, perhaps. Yep, it looks like that does, and that covers up this mechanism. And then this goes up here. That's what it is. But I believe there is a plate which is probably at the, I think it's at the bottom of the game. Let's double check. Here's the plate. It holds this in somehow like this. Got some screws that hold it in on the side, and that mounts to the top of the ramp like that. So all the parts are here. It's just a matter of cleaning it up and putting it back together. Like I said, it's going to be really exciting to get these new ramps from Ramp-O-Matic Jody. These ramps are actually in really good condition, but I think it would be really fun to go through the trials and tribulations of what it's like to actually put a new ramp in a pinball machine, which we've only really done once. Some are easier than others. This one looks like it'll be quite simple. Got to put new decals on, but hopefully I can try to get these decals reproduced, perhaps. A lot of these ramps do use riveted assemblies, but thankfully it looks like Data East and Sega used a lot of sheet metal screws to screw on some of these brackets, where Williams would sometimes rivet these assemblies to ramps for ease of manufacturing. It looks like Data East riveted the Habitrail ramp brackets, and that's about it. We'll definitely remove everything and clean. The game is pretty clean, but we want to make sure it's extra clean. We want to install some new rubbers. I don't like black rubbers, so we will probably be installing some white rubbers. I don't like black rubbers because of the way they bounce. I also don't like how they make the machines seemingly dirtier a lot easier. Maybe in some of these locations we will install super bands. In places that are extremely difficult to get to. If one of these were to ever snap, which probably wouldn't happen for 10 years, you know, it would be nice to have a super band, right, which is something that will just never break. And they don't require a lot of crazy bouncing, but you've got a heavy-duty rubber band up here that means you'll never really need to take this apart unless you need to clean the game. And that's one great benefit of those things. I'm going to procure some another couple sets of Sonic flippers. One fun thing about these Sega games is that they had a unique flipper bat with Sonic the Hedgehog in the edges. This game is the ultimate because it has a shark fin flipper. Can you name another game that has a shark flipper? That's right, there is none. I don't know if this neon flipper is correct, but I do like this weird color. I think Starship Troopers and a couple later games use these neon ones, but when in a pinch, you could use a Stern flipper or Williams flipper. It doesn't matter, but it's fun to have the original stuff. Ramp-O-Matic. Okay, hold on. There's a lot of chats. Old Hot Dust. Patrick Marino. Is it hard to find parts for Sega pins, ramps, etc.? No. Not. Yeah, I mean, some things, but no. I mean, there's some unique assemblies, but like we talked about, Stern uses a lot of the same assemblies now. Anything unique to any game is difficult to find, but the common replacement parts are not difficult to find. Thankfully, we have people like Ramp-O-Matic, who's in chat, that has been making ramps for the unloved games for a while now. Yeah, I have a lot of experience, answering Dent0123's question at the top. Someone took it apart, putting it together as like a jigsaw puzzle. Thankfully, it's really, to me, it's not that hard to put a pinball game back together if I didn't take it apart or it's taken a while. There are some instances where it can be a little headache-inducing, but generally things will only go one way. And it's very easy to figure out which way those things go by using some witness marks or using your brain a little bit. If this was all apart, that would be quite difficult, but thankfully it's just a few pieces, so it won't be too bad. Yes, we need to get a display. That'll be good. Pez Johnson's ready for me to late night stream this for Spell Iron Man for fast scoring. Those two ramps are among the most rivets I do for any ramp. What are you talking about? I don't see any rivets on these ramps. Oh, I think you're being facetious. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 rivets between both ramps? Are you crazy? Maybe you are. Maybe you're not lying. I'm riveting hook ramps as I listen to the show. Good man. Good. Yeah, I love super bands too, especially in those hard to reach spots. A lot of the times I like to put super bands everywhere and maybe use regular flipper rubbers for the flippers just for that classic feel. But it's great because you do not have to worry about replacing rings and they bounce nicely. I saw some of those aluminum flippers. I've used old aluminum flippers before and I did not like the way they played. I had a guy that CNC'd a set of flippers out of aluminum and they didn't feel right. Maybe these new ones are better because they're heavier or lighter, but I just did not like the way that the ones I played with years ago felt. Why no DMD? This DMD is bad, which is why I've never worked on this game. And then I found a Giganto DMD in my pile of parts and I was like, aha, I have one. And it was a Giganto DMD of a different form factor. So unfortunately, we cannot test that today. But I have another one in California I'll be getting, and we'll see. Once I get that one shipped over by my brother, who may have just texted me, we'll see if that one works. Digirati Ohm's audio went out. I have levels still, and it looks like other people can hear me. I'm sorry. All the switch brackets? Maybe mine's weird, Jody, but mine have sheet metal screws. Avert your attention to the camera, please. I can see riveted switch mount here. I mean, unless I'm missing some. I may as well be. There could be some in the back, but I see those 4 rivets there. All this stuff is attached with sheet metal screws. Oh, you can't see my finger. All these guys. But maybe 8 to 12 rivets is a ton of rivets considering. So I'm no ramp master, you are. I believe you. What time is it? Wow, it's 4:30. Okay, great. Now it means I can just sit down. I'll do that. I have a feeling that this actually might go a bit faster than I thought it would. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of work in sourcing some of these parts and this thing not working. And it seemingly doesn't seem like a big job now. Unfortunately, I'm going to kind of go about it. Actually, I might not go about it backwards. Generally, we'll start with the electronics, right? We'll get in here. We'll make sure that all the electronics are safe. I definitely want to redo some of those connectors. We'll do that next week. We'll get all that stuff done. One episode will definitely be installing a new DMD, testing the new DMD, maybe a color DMD if I can convince Emoto that we should buy one for the 100th episode, since I've been whining about it for 2 years now. And then the rest of it will be light disassembly. I will remove the plastics, I'll remove the ramps, we are going to clean. We're going to check and see if these pop bumper platters are brittle. We're going to install some LEDs under these plastics, but I'm not going to take everything off and clean under it. The game is actually quite clean, but we will disassemble Novus the game, we will wax the game, install some new pieces, then get into the nitty gritty. So next week we'll probably do some light board work, perhaps we'll do some connectors, etc. And then just start working on the reassembly. This will be a good game. In the shop, if I had everything I needed, I could probably knock this out in 8 to 10 hours from the condition it's in now to having everything I'd like replaced, up to playing perfectly with a good computer and stuff like that, solid electronics. We're going to stretch it out for probably 20 hours on this show, just since we're so discombobulated sometimes and it takes a long time to do anything, because I can do things 1.5 hours at a time. But now I'm done ranting and we could sit down and chit chat. I'm going to put my jeweler's loop away here so I don't lose my precious eye enhancer. We have 2 Batman Forevers where the DMDs aren't working, but something with the DMD CPU. Interesting. The computers are pretty simple to fix. Replace all the socketed chips. Daniel, yes, Maverick uses the same DMD as Baywatch. So does Data East Frankenstein and Batman Forever. How do you know what the best playfield pitch is for a game? Set it to what the manufacturer recommends, which is around 6.5 degrees, and then adjust it to however you like it, because no one can tell you what is right. If you like playing your pinball machines at 2 degrees pitch, to hell with everyone else. It's your choice to play it that way. I set my games to exactly where I like it. Sometimes that's more than 6 degrees, sometimes that's less. Every game plays different, and some games appreciate more or less pitch depending on the playfield layout. Rampomatic says, each one has a special bracket at the back for the switches and the wire form mounts and 3 flaps between them. Yeah, it's a lot when you do 20 at a time. Okay, totally understand. That is a lot. Patrick Marino, do you bother cleaning star posts or toss them? Generally, I toss them. Well, actually, generally, I keep them, and I will use them for art someday or give them to people that make art. I have a lot of friends that like to do things with pinball parts. Most of the time, I will replace the star posts that you can see with new, fresh star posts. It really makes the games pop, sometimes to save $3 so you can buy yourself a beer. You can save some of the ones that are under plastics or not visible to the human eye and not replace them. So generally, I'll replace almost all of them, though, especially if you can see them. Digerati needs to, you can clear your cache, I don't know. Blitz wax. Yeah, I don't have any Blitz wax, but I have a pure Carnauba paste wax that I use to wax my games. I personally don't like liquid waxes. They're difficult to control. I like paste waxes because they don't drip, or it's a lot easier to get them out of the crevices of star posts and stuff like that, where liquid waxes are a little more unwieldy. Yeah, Daniel, I do need to find a sponsor. Daniel, when are you going to go across your new bridge? You can go from the mainland to the island that has Dubrovnik now. That's really cool. I saw an article about it on NPR, one of our public news stations for the United States, and it's very beautiful. What a cool thing. I do use car wax on pinballs. No, I don't use car wax on pinballs. I think this one is branded more for furniture, but it's just a pure Carnauba wax. It's not a cleaner wax or anything like that, so it doesn't have any extra abrasives. The abrasives used in cleaner waxes are for car paint. The abrasives used in Novus are extraordinarily fine to the point where they're barely an abrasive. So you don't want to use cleaner waxes on pinball games because they are they're much more abrasive than a lot of other things. So a pure Carnauba wax, no additives, no nothing like that. That's the best, well, that's what I use. That's my opinion. It's expensive. Pure Carnauba waxes can cost like up to $30 for, or more for a tin, because it is, again, there's no additives. It's just pure Carnauba. You'll go to an auto parts store and find like a tin of cleaner wax or something like that for $15 and be like, well, why do I need the expensive one? Well, there's a lot of additives and synthetics inside those waxes, where Carnauba is harvested from trees. Use Pledge. No. Novus and wax only. That's the way I do it. But you can do it however you want. It's your pinball machine. What's everyone doing this weekend? I'm watching the Hungarian Grand Prix. It'll be nice. I'm going to brush my cats. Maybe I'll make I was thinking about making like a Thai soup, maybe like a coconut curry soup, like a tom kha, or maybe, I don't know, I'm trying to make soups. I want to try to make like a soup a week. And it's still much too hot in South Carolina to make a lot of my favorite soups. So I want to try something lighter. What kind of beer do you recommend while playing and working on games? Light beers. I definitely enjoy a good lager while working on games. It's basically water. That doesn't mean you have to drink really crappy beer, but on the East Coast, I like a good Yingling while working on a game, or a nice German-style lager. Keep you hydrated and fresh. Nothing too heavy for me while working. But I've been drinking a lot more wine lately. Not while working. I'm really on a wine kick. It's great. I have to, I'm excited to continue working on this. Now, especially that I know it's not that much work. A German Hefeweizen. It's a good choice. Hey, it's my friend Ben, a Grayface in Savannah. I'm really excited. I'm going to get working on going back to Savannah sometime soon to go back and work on all their games that they keep down there. If y'all want to go on a vacation, you should go to Savannah. Savannah is probably one of the most beautiful place in the United States. That's fact, actually. That's not my opinion. That's literal fact. And it's a wonderful town full of some cool people. And the Grayface Museum and Record Store is fantastic. And their pinball machines are wonderful. So, well, especially after Ben and I have been there working on them. My meter misses me. I miss my meter too. I'm going to get it soon. I spoke with Ryan yesterday. He's going to figure out when Amy has her house free so I can stay down there. And I'll spend maybe like a Wednesday to Sunday in Savannah working on pinball games. It's going to be great. Patrick has been playing the hell out of Godzilla Premium. Nice. I do not have a Godzilla. I wish I did. The only modern game I have is a Deadpool, which is on in an arcade here in town. I have a TNA too. I guess that's a pretty new game. But I tell you, if I could afford one new game, I'd love to get a Godzilla. What a fantastic game. Oh, okay. So interesting. It's always funny to me how those Adriatic states, I mean, how Croatia does, I guess Bosnia doesn't technically have a border with the water though, right? Croatia goes all around it. So you have to cross into Bosnia and then cross out of Bosnia back into Croatia. Interesting. Good. I'm glad that there is some Slavic collaboration there. We're moving on past the 90s, so good. Yes, I'd love to go to St. Augustine sometime. I've never been to Florida. So. Oh, no borders. Oh, okay, I understand. You just pass straight over Bosnia. Still, I'm glad there's collaboration. Good job. TNA is so cool. You're totally right there. Yeah, I know, and right when I get back from Florida in the beginning of October, there is the Graveface Festival, which is great. Ryan Graveface puts on a show with a bunch of the bands on his label and other bands he can get to come. Might be a secret show of one of my favorite groups playing at that festival. I think I'm going to book my Airbnb tonight, so I make sure I do not miss that festival in the middle of October. Probably just take the whole week and just stay in Savannah. Might as well move there. I love that place. One day. Oh, Sarah's here. Hi, Sarah. I love this plastic. Look at that guy. The future is now. What has science done? Yep, Baywatch. Good stuff. I'm just so surprised that it's in such good shape. I really didn't know. I just knew that I wanted Baywatch because Mark had Baywatch, and now I'm just stoked that it's in such good shape, and I'm glad it's mine. Yeah. 4:41. I don't know what else is going on this weekend. I need to do house chores. It's still too hot. Colin just wants to hear me talk about beer more. More light beers. Just a nice lager, man. A good old Yingling or something of the sort. That's my favorite to drink when I'm just working on a game, you know? Maybe a Rainier when I'm in the Pacific Northwest, or a Anchor Steam Ale when I'm back in California. All that good stuff. Nice and light. And water. Water is important. I don't think I've drank any water today. I probably need to do that. Ever think about selling some of your old games to buy a newer Stern with prices what they are? No. I will not sell them because I won't be able to buy them back again. I've learned that lesson when I started selling games. I don't really play a lot of pinball at home. Actually, I maybe play pinball at home twice a month. So I keep my games on location. I'd love to buy one, but most of these games that I still have left are pretty special. I mean, there's some that I could probably let go. But I like most of these. I have a bow and arrow I might sell. Otherwise, I have a lot of connection with a lot of these games. That Strikes and Spares I really don't have a connection with, but I really like that game, so I'd like to keep it. Never sell Viking. I'll never get rid of Lady Luck. I like 2001. It's one of my favorite games, so I probably won't get rid of that ever either. I really like Kings of Steel. I got that one for so cheap. I'll never be able to buy it again. Jungle Lord, I love that game. Vector, maybe I'll work on that one day. That Hotline, I need to finish that. I'd maybe sell that Hot Hand or whatever I have over there. But I also like that game, so once I get it working, I'll probably won't want to sell it. It's just, if I sell games, I won't ever be able to buy them back. So it's not worth it to me to sell stuff that I already have. I do have hoarding tendencies. I'm absolutely a hoarder, but again, I sold most of my games and I can't afford them anymore. So. YouTube video where some guy you recommend using a magic eraser. Yes, I have tried it and I don't recommend it unless you know what you're doing. I don't care that a playfield is dirty. It doesn't bother me to have like a little bit of ingrained dirt. When you're using a magic eraser, you are effectively nullifying all of the protective coatings, etc., that are left on your playfields, on your old games especially. If you're going to use a magic eraser, you may as well tear the whole thing down and get it totally corrected and clear coated after, because when you start removing the clear coat or the varnish or whatever is on that playfield, you're never going to be able to get that back without recoating it. They do damage. I did damage on the Strikes and Spares under the apron when we were testing that out a long time ago. And I don't recommend using them unless you know what you're doing. You can cause way more damage than you can fix. Colin picked out some, oh my gosh. Are they 500 milliliter bottles for $24? Those are probably good stouts. Yes, anyone in the Chicago area, also Graveface Records is opening up a pop-up store, record store, curiosity store, and small arcade in the Chucktown neighborhood off of Milwaukee Avenue. That should be opening this weekend, so Andrew should go. I'm going to go up there sometime. I need to get back to Chicago and check that out. Lottery, uh-oh. Nah, I don't know. No gambling for me. I need a pinball intervention sometimes. I've got so many parts, it's insane. But I'll keep them and use them when I need to. Sometimes. I'm not as bad of a hoarder as others. I just don't want to get rid of my games. I like what I have, and you know, I'd love to get my Star Trek Next Generation back. I'd love to get so many of those 90s games that I let go of back, but it's just my bank account I'm not in that tax bracket. you should go. I'll let you know when they open. It's really going to be an awesome spot, and Ryan's a super cool dude, and he will be happy to know that you know me. Patrick, I don't agree. I've used Novus #2 to clean probably thousands and thousands and thousands of pinball machines, and I've never done any damage with it ever. So there's a million different opinions on this matter, and my opinion is that I will use it, I will continue using it, and it's a perfectly safe and fine thing to use to clean your pinball machine. You can take it from my experience. I've used it on a million different games, and it's totally fine. Molly Hatchet, 22 whole months. I want to give you a big ol' hug. Thank you for renewing your subscription to us. Really appreciate it. I wonder how many gallons of Novus I've used in my lifetime. Between when I worked with Chris or at the Pinball Museum. Thank you. I appreciate all of you subscribers. You really make this a thing worth doing. And all of you, really, not even just the people that pay a little bit of money to use silly emojis. We definitely all appreciated having you all join every week. It's definitely the high point of my week almost every week. The other high point maybe is if I can brush all of my cats without having them get angry at me, which is maybe once a month, even though I try every weekend. Anyways, yeah. I think like if I had to move into an apartment or a small place and I didn't have a place to store all of my games, I definitely would parse my collection down to a few like real favorites, like Viking and Xenon and TNA and Twilight Zone would never leave. Grand Prix would probably never leave, but there you go. There's too many to fit in an apartment already. So it's hard. It's definitely debilitating. Do not, take it from me, you do not need to buy every game that you find. I did that for a long time, and it was stupid, and it takes over your life. So just buy what you want, what's a good deal. You'll always be able to find another one. There's no such thing as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Work for storage space. Yeah, I should just work at a storage unit. Just get a free storage unit every month. No, because then what's the point of having them? That's the thing, is if I actually had to keep my games in storage, I would sell them all. There's no point in keeping them if they're just going to sit and not be used whatsoever, right? That's why I like to keep my games in the arcades, to let people enjoy them. I like to take them to shows to let people enjoy them, because that is what they're meant to do. They're not meant to sit in basements under covers. They're meant for people to enjoy, like you, your families, everyone else. I'm proselytizing. Go play pinball. I'm going to enjoy this delicious beverage. No one's told me what they're doing this weekend. I feel like I'm just talking to a screen. I hate it when Emoto's not here. I know you're here to listen to us talk, but I feel like all I'm doing is talking, and it makes me feel self-conscious. Oh, let's see if my brother responded about sending me my DMD. Oh, he did. Let me talk to mom when she gets home. let me push the job onto someone else. I guess that's how I know he's related to me. There's a local tournament in my area that I will participate in. That's a good choice. I definitely think you should go and play in your local tournament. It's a good way to get to know other pinball people in your local area. Go support people in your town that spend their time to put those events on. There's a pinball place in Terre Haute. Terre Haute or Terre Haute? Haute. I mean, isn't that how you say today in German? I think it is. I'm going to run over there and play. Nice. That's a good idea. Do they have a unique selection of games? Haute? Okay. Your brother's keeping your DMD. He'll sell it back to you. Oh, no. Thankfully, my brother does not care about pinball in that way, to hold it hostage. I should tell him is he should fly to South Carolina, put it in a suitcase, and then come visit. But Digiradium is playing a whitewater that needs a lot, or working on a light whitewater that needs a lot of love. Good man. That's definitely a good idea. What I'm nervous about is they're not going to wrap it enough. I'm probably going to tell them it's like, get a big box and wrap it in a towel and then wrap bubble wrap around it. And then when you think you've wrapped it enough, wrap it with more, and then shove another towel or two in the box and then send it. We'll see. I wanted to bring it home in my suitcase from California, but I brought this smallish suitcase, and the DMD was like the exact width of the suitcase. And I was like, yeah, or the exact height. I was like, yeah, I'm not bringing that in there. Colin's doing a headlight lens restore this week. I'd love to come to Michigan, hang out with you. That would be a great time. I used to use Novus all the time to clear up the headlights on my Subaru and on my old BMW. And now I don't have either of those cars, and I have a car with superior glass headlights that won't fog anymore, so yay. Molly Hatchet says they just opened in a mall. All their stuff is New Stern, JJP American, and a Monster Bash. That's fine. I mean, I love an arcade that has variety, but I also appreciate an arcade that puts their money out to buy new stuff. New stuff is easier, it's more reliable for the operators, and they're also supporting their local dealers and stuff like that for the most part to, buy all those games. And it's fun. I mean, you think about it, like back in the day, I'd go to the pinball shows to play the new games, back when it was so exciting to go and play Tron in 2009, or it was so exciting when, all the Transformers and the original Avengers and X-Men, all these games came out, because you didn't see them at arcades. But now with the advent of the owner-operator thing, you see a lot of those newer games more often. Ugh. The box will weigh 20 pounds by the time you're done wrapping. It's fine. As long as it shows up safe, I'm fine with that. Use toothpaste to clean lenses on cars. Yeah, it's just abrasive enough, isn't it? Yeah, gosh, it's frustrating. It's so scary to drive my old Subaru Forester now at nighttime after I've been driving my GTI for so long with the nice LED headlights that really brighten up the road in front of you. And you get in this thing, it's like, shit, are the lights on? Poor old car. That thing's ancient now. That's how I know I'm getting old, because I still think of 20-year-old cars as being from like 1989. But now 20-year-old cars are my 2003 Subaru Forester. So, yeah, I just always use Novus because I've got this stuff around all the time. So yeah, the Baywatch. We'll get to this. It's going to be fun. Hopefully we'll learn something. Haven't really worked on many Data East games. Looking at it, like all of my targets are pretty good. I might replace these two yellow targets that flank the ramps. I might have to replace all 5 of them just so they all match in color, but the gray shark targets are actually quite nice. I like to try to keep all the original parts if possible, but it'll be nice to get some new, fresh yellow targets on there. They round out the edges of the long side of the targets will start to chip away as the ball kind of will glance them as they go up the ramps. So. Dinner time. All right, see you Thirsty Thursday, my friend. Enjoy your dinner. I don't know what's for dinner tonight. Maybe I'll have some leftover soup. You know you're getting old when the vehicle you drive will have an antique tag in a few years. That's good. That's great. Jaded has their arcade has a mixture of 90s and newer games. Yeah, it's real common nowadays for 90s and newer games, which is fun. Like I said, with the advent of the collector operator, owner operator sort of a thing, when they don't have room for games in their house anymore, they'll bring them to location. And that means a lot of 90s and newer games for sure. Is there a Croatian-made car? I didn't know that Croatia had an auto industry. I love my new-ish car. It's not even new anymore. Patrick Marino says, what do you think about the new Toy Story pin worth 12 Gs? I don't know because I haven't played it yet. It looks really fun. It is really beautiful. Jersey Jack makes an incredibly beautiful game. They're really wonderful. And I just haven't had time to sit down and play that game yet. I'm really excited to. I couldn't tell you if it's worth $12,000 because I don't know how much money you have to throw around on toys. But I definitely could not afford a game like that, which is why it makes me glad that people are generous enough to put those on location. You know, it's a really expensive piece of equipment. And I'm glad that we're lucky enough to have pinball still be, you know, $1 at a time. So you don't need to spend 12,000 bucks to play the newest games. You could go to your local arcade, support them, and spend $1. Ed Peters. My little collection at home runs from 1947 Kilroy to 1989 Light Moves. I get to play the newer pins on our local arcade, the Pinball Room in Sioux Fall. Not sure I could sell any. Yeah, man, I feel the same way. At home, I prefer to have a mixture of games too. As if I do go out to play pinball, if I go to someone's house or if I go to a arcade, generally I'll see the newer games there. So to me, I love having a couple EMs at home and some of my old Bally games to get to, when I do want to play pinball, so I can sit down and play for 6 minutes and then my attention span's gone, I turn it off and go play, you know, go walk away. Sometimes I do feel like with the newer games, you know, you can be sitting there for 30, 40 minutes if you get into a good game, but variety is the spice of life. So I definitely love the a lot of different games at home. Kilroy, huh? I'd love to get a wood rail. I've never actually owned a working wood rail. For no real reason, just it's never really come up as an opportunity to purchase one. I had a 1938, I think it was a Genko. It was a game called Venus, but it was very rough. I got it for free. And then when I moved across country, I just deemed it not worth taking. So I gave it to one of my friends to restore it. So Jaded's kind of right. And this isn't me disparaging or speaking positively about, you know, anybody, but the Jersey Jack games do not tend to do as well as the newer Stern games on location just because they're very complex. They're very striking, and at least in the locations I've worked in, they do very well for a while, and then they kind of taper off because they're quite complex games. That is why they end up doing a lot better in the homes, just because you have more time to sit there and learn the game. If you don't feel like you've progressed or learned a certain subsect of the rules sometimes for $1, you might not want to put another $1 into the game. That being said, now not all Jersey Jack games are that way. I definitely remember it being that way with Willy Wonka at first. It was a little confusing. People didn't really get it. It was pretty and it was a fun game to slap around, but it takes a lot of games to get people to learn a lot of the basic rules. And if they feel like they maybe aren't learning at the right speed, maybe they won't put another $1 in. I do feel like some of the more recent Stern games have been extraordinarily complex, but some of them have been quite easy to step up to and learn right off the bat. A game like Godzilla, it doesn't take very many games to step up to a Godzilla and be like, okay, I kind of understand the path I need to take here. Game design, you know, maybe Jersey Jack does focus on their home consumer more, which is fine because the home consumer is a big driving force nowadays. If you're going to spend upwards of $10,000 on a toy for you and your family, it better have some legs, right? I've explained my thoughts on that a few times. I'm not going to go into it now, but there's ups and downs of both. Huh. Daniel, I'm going to look at that when I get home. That's interesting. They build electric motors for Porsche also. Huh. Porsche is potentially going to be the powertrain supplier for Red Bull Racing and Formula One now. That's kind of interesting. I'd like to see how that turns out. It's about that time. I kind of want to go home as much as I'd love to sit down and chat with y'all forever. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to go to twitch.tv right now. And I am going to see who is streaming. Ha! All right. Our friend Manu. Oh, hey, speaking of Toy Story, let's go watch Manu play some Toy Story now. I'm watching his ad currently, but let's see where he's at. He's probably at Free Gold Watch in San Francisco, which is a arcade. Maybe he'll know what it works like at home in an arcade. Thank you, Molly Hatchet. I hope you guys have a good evening as well. Rebel Dog, see you later. Yeah, Patrick, I agree. Some of those games are a little difficult on location, but it depends on the player also. Some locations have casual players, some of them have real serious players. So not all of them are made alike. All right, Manu is about to start. So let's time our raid with when he starts the stream. Oh man, I missed that street. It's the corner of Stanion. Is that Waller? Yeah, that's Waller Street. So that's where Free Gold Watch is. Oh, shoot. I'm watching something you guys aren't. I miss San Francisco sometimes. All right, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. We're going to raid Manu, MPT, Mystery Pinball 3, Theater 3000, 3K. For all of you on Twitch, that's where we're heading. Thanks all. Subscribe or follow Manu. Watch him. He's a great guy. Thanks for joining me today, and maybe we'll do some more working on Baywatch next week. So, bye everybody. For everyone on YouTube and Facebook, now I am killing the stream.